All right, folks, let's talk about anger for a minute. The Bible says to be angry and sin not. I don't know how many times I've heard that used as a justification to be angry. In church, they're like, Jesus, he whipped them, turned over tables, yelled at them, told them to get out of here. Well, let me just bring out some other scripture to you. It says be angry and sin not. So what does that mean? What would qualify as a sin, being angry? First, let's inspect the circumstances of Jesus. Jesus never was that angry unless he was around blatant hypocrisy and purifying the temple. So if somebody is defiling the temple, there might be a balanced way to exercise righteous anger in purifying that temple. You should get angry at the devil every time he convinces you to fall into temptation and you defile your temple. But we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and rulers of darkness in high places. And what that means is when everything's going awry and anger is coming up, if you end up putting that anger against flesh and blood, you are fighting the wrong enemy with that anger. So that's a sin. You're not supposed to hate your brother. You're not supposed to not forgive your brother. You're supposed to do no harm to anybody. So if you use anger in any way against flesh and blood, then here comes a car. Then you have sinned in your anger. If you use your anger to purify your temple by using that against the enemy, like for instance, say you fall into lust. It's a hard thing for almost every man to not do. Get mad at the devil. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't get mad at women for not dressing right, for the internet for throwing up ads that is like the worst thing you can see without even wanting to see it. So get mad at the devil. Begin to bind the enemy. Begin to come against the spirit of lust. And that lust doesn't have to be sexual. It could be anything. Maybe you have a spirit of covetousness, which is also lust. See, lust is anything you desire. Okay? So there's a lot of things that you can desire. There's more sins. I can desire to eat a whole family pack of Oreos. But that's definitely gluttony. You see? But I can fulfill that lust of the flesh. There's all kinds of things that we can do that are sin, okay? My point is anger. We do not fight against the flesh and blood. So when you use anger against the flesh, you're sinning. When you use anger to fight in the spirit, or to clean your temple, or to purify a temple, say you're a pastor of a church and somebody's doing something unholy and unsanctified and irreverent inside the sanctuary. Righteous anger removes those people from the church, but it does no harm to them. You see, there's a balance. Now, Jesus whipped them. So I think we can whip them out of the church. Well, there's a lot of, it was his father's house. He was the pure, holy, sinless. He could have cast the first stone. You see, he who cast the first stone. We need to be merciful, wise and gentle, not wise and rough. You see, that's why we take this verse that says, be angry and sin not, and justify anger against our brother and sister. This is where we sin. Do not use anger against flesh and blood. If you use anger against flesh and blood, you have failed the test and you have fought the wrong enemy. Use anger to come against the enemy that is defiling the temple. Again, that enemy is never flesh and blood. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Shalom, shalom.